with this seminar, I will present you from the transnational access what we did for Broadreach. We performed this TNA in April this year. Was for Broadreach healthcare, with the question from Broadreach that we could help them perhaps in the design of a healthcare analytics war room. And war room is for them, or more or less the idea of a health command center, where they can monitor all kinds of healthcare data, visualize that, and use that data for coming up with new ideas on how to provide new information and new funds and perhaps new facilities for improving the healthcare in Africa. Well, what they do is they collect all kinds of healthcare data among the whole continent of Africa, and they try to come up with the best fitting approach for a budget. How can it be spent to achieve the most results? And they want to show the people who offer them money what will happen with the money and how much people will be benefit from that. So what they asked us is how can we help with them, because well, they know what they can do, they know what kind of data they have, but they have problems with communicating all their ideas to the whole public. It's quite difficult to explain in only data, in Excel or in Access data, on what will happen with the money. So therefore they want to have some kind of visualization to see what is the benefit and what will happen if we invest this type of money or this amount of money in a project. So end of April, 28th till 30th of April, they were over here with total of 4 people. 1 from Switzerland, 1 from America and 2 from South Africa. And well, we started up the project here with the goal to develop the blueprint. They want to leave our VR lab with a blueprint of what should we do to develop the best healthcare war room we can think of. So we had some kind of goals like the viewing experience, naturalness, comfort, ability to represent complex information, but also the interaction possibilities, which were quite hard to develop for them because they only know how to process data and they are not familiar with building their own virtual reality environment or a virtual reality solution. So therefore we help them. So we formulated some questions. What kind of analytics do we really need? So of course we can do all kinds of analytics based on the data, but what is now really necessary? How can we organize that? So how do we know that we have something which is really useful, efficient and effective? And all the data we already have, how are we going to manage that? There is a lot of data available. Some things are structured, some are unstructured, but how can we use the data already available in the new VR solution instead of making all kinds of new data or collecting new data? And of course, how do we assess all the possibilities we have, all the visualization techniques like 3D screens, 2D screens, 4K, whatever there is available, how do we know what will fit to the requirements? And of course, they have to develop algorithms, but those algorithms have to fit up to what we develop as a VR solution. And of course, ending with what kind of criteria do we need for selecting and evaluating potential architectures. So we put up those research questions and translated them into an approach. How do we do that? Well, we used the approach we often use for static environments. We also presented that, I think, 2 years ago in a TNA or in a seminar. So we try to determine what are the stakeholders from those requirements, or from those stakeholders. What do they want to achieve? What are the requirements? And how can we identify those things? Well, those 5 points I mentioned here on the slide are the 5 starting points for a major brainstorm and a major mind mapping session in which we want to try out all those different aspects, discuss them with those 4 people from Broadreach, and add 2 experts from the VR lab to it, so that we could act as an expert on a different level, that we don't know exactly what they have as data and don't know exactly what they do, but we are the experts on VR technology and we can identify what can be possible with the technique you are using now. So the approach is divided into some sections. Well, the first section was work on what we call the gaming tables in our VR lab. And we use those gaming tables to do a collaborative mind mapping. We ask all the participants to sit on a table and use the personal input device, which was a tablet computer in this case, to add things to the questions we asked them. And the questions, I will come to in the next slide, are put in a mind map. And we want to have more information and more discussion on what do you really need for your communication. So on this slide you see at the top, or at the bottom right, the interface we use for the collaboration session. People could add text, sketches, websites, images, or news items, and they could share it with the others. And all the input from those personal computers, those are collected on the mind map and are structured. And besides that, we had a digital whiteboard, so we could also draw things together with the whole group. We use the problem solution approach, so only talk about your problems first, and after that come up with solutions and keep a strict bonding between them. So no solutions in your problem space and no problems in your solution space. Well, the results from the first morning that they were here, we had quite a nice overview, and it's not readable, it's not meant to be readable, in this mind map. And in the mind map were all the problems and all the issues they had at this moment. So what are the requirements and what do you want to do as a stakeholder with the new VR solution? Everybody agreed with this, and everybody thought this is something we could really use, and we have a solution which covers these requirements. So all those needs for the healthcare analytics are in the second phase worked on more detail, and the detail is there in how much data is available. Is it a real-time data? And if yes, what can you do with the data? How do you process it at this moment, and how much time does it take? And can we make it a faster and a more dynamic experience that we could really see if we change some value, what will be the consequence, instead of calculating it for 2 or 3 days and not coming up with a solution. We want to do it real time, show them immediately what is possible. Oh, and those things are mainly here available in these mind maps. The first was about the needs, the other mind map about the problems. And those were quite clear and quite cute communicated with all the participants. But we also had these kind of sketches. And if you don't know what the origin of the sketch is, you have no idea what we're talking about. But this sketch was on the virtual whiteboard for I think 2 or 3 hours, and it was their overview on how to organize the data and how to structure all the data they have now in separate environments into one, what they call a solution space. And we constantly added and changed this overview to what they mentioned as new requirements or new needs. Well, and this is converted into an overview in what the visualization technique should offer. So not what kind of calculation is needed and what kind of data is needed, but how can we visualize that data on an appropriate way that their customers and their stakeholders could understand what they mean. Well, for that, we used the approach of finding relevant and comparable projects we already did in the lab. So we picked out a number of projects, and what I show here are 4 of them, which we compared the problem and the solution to their project. So what was the problem with these example projects, which are best practices? How can we use information from that in your project? And we picked out the projects varying from simple 2D data overview till complete 3D environments which respond to the data we enter them, including different kind of interaction possibilities. So with touch table, but also with normal gestures or with mouse interaction, to see what kind of interaction is fitting for your purpose, what do you understand, and what can you use, how much data do you want to change. Well, based on the examples we showed them, we picked out interesting points which they found interesting, like visualization on a 3D scale, interaction on a touch table because it's quite convenient and easy to use. And we developed for them, and together with them, a translation between the things they saw here as best practice and the conversion to that for their own project. So what would it mean if you take out some best practices, you change them with your own data and your own approach, and you create your own VR solution. So at the end we had an overview of all those requirements as a complete blueprint and also a list of next steps. So they already know what they had to do at hardware and software. They know what the specifications were, but they don't know what kind of hardware and software was available in their installation in Switzerland or in South Africa. So therefore we ended with only specifications, and we had contact via email and video conference up to 2-3 months after the TNA to come up with the best choice of hardware and software. And I received this picture, I think 4 months after the TNA, 4 or 5 months after it, and they created their own, well, they call it a miniature VR lab, their own health command center, with indeed large touchscreens, touch tables, the software we provided them adjusted to their needs, so small minor adjustments for it, and even asked some students from us to help developing it now in the future. And this is the first version now which is working in South Africa, and they're trying now to bring it up to multiple locations and also making perhaps a portable variant. And that was the results from this TNA. Are there any questions?
Just why did you use synthetics environments for that? Because typically I understood that synthetics environments was the topic of this kind of specification definition. So why is the relation, and why didn't you try to use the environment you created?
Well, in the background for the preparation, we did use our synthetic environment overview, so the whole selection process and also the wiki website we showed in the previous seminar. Due to the fact that the VR solution they want to have is not, they didn't want per se a VR solution, it could also be something else. So we said we picked the idea of the static environment, so the way of working with the problems and the solutions and determining your needs, but we translated a little bit to a more convenient and simple to use way with the mind maps to keep the overview for them more easy. And because it was a 2-day session or 3-day session, we had to pick it up and all do it in 3 days. We said to them, okay, we pick out our synthetic environment approach, we translate it into multiple mind maps which are combined to each other. So the whole structure of our normal synthetic environment approach was transferred into a mind map approach, that we had 5 mind maps linked to each other, and every mind map is the input for the next one. So that way we made it directly interactive with those 4 people over there, instead of having a synthetic environment approach which is also a documentation thing normally for people also externally, and you can use it after or during the work. We said no, we want to have the results in those 3 days, and we don't want to have collaboration with people in Switzerland or in South Africa or in America, because it takes too much time. So we do it now on the fly with these 4 people, and therefore we found mind mapping faster. That was the main idea.